Hello and welcome to Badge Chat, hashtag Badge Chat for one of our awesome Badge Chat show and tells. This week we are really excited to take a deep dive into Badge Backpacks with Karen Jeffrey. Karen, thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. And Karen, for folks who don't know about you, you've been a part of just the open badge scene since, you're kind of OG at this point. And so folks who haven't had the pleasure of interacting with you, can you just kind of give us a quick intro into who you are and how you got involved in digital badge credentialing?
Sure. So I first got involved with digital badges when I saw the announcement for the first Mozilla competition for the open badges. And so my company, For All Systems, we submitted an application for it and got partnered up with a consortium of museums here in Chicago. And we all applied together, and we were finalists and went out to San Francisco, but we weren't chosen to be funded. And then while I was there, I met folks from Corona Norco who had this great idea for how to create a badging system for their district. And they had funding from the state of California, so I connected up with them and we built this pathway system that's still used and now has been enhanced and is used probably by, 50 different organizations that are using the pathway system. And here in Chicago, we got funding from the Chicago Community Trust and built the badging system that we had proposed. And then I got to be a part of the Chicago City of Learning as well.
Awesome. And for folks who are doing their research in K-12 student badging systems, in addition to seeing Aurora Public Schools, Corona Norco is probably one of the first ones they're going to see, where you all have issued, probably 200,000 plus badges at this point?
I think we've cracked 1 million at this point.
Cracked 1 million. That is awesome. Yeah. Over 1 million K-12 student badges there. That is awesome. And if folks want to learn more about Corona Norco, you can definitely connect. I know at April M. Moore is no longer there, but she was one of the spearheads of that. And before we do go on, since we do have a couple people watching live, know that you can tweet in your questions for Karen live on the air using hashtag badge chat, and we'll make sure that she gets a chance to answer this for you live on the air. And you can always follow Karen as well at Karen Jeffrey, and For All Systems is at For All Rubrics on Twitter, correct, Karen?
Yeah.
Awesome. And so, before we dive into some of your awesome work, I think one of the things that I really wanted to get your expertise on this afternoon is the idea of badge backpacks, because anybody who starts doing some exploration into digital badge credentials, one of the first things that they're going to stumble upon is the Mozilla Backpack. And so, can you help us, even before we talk about the Mozilla Backpack, just even back us up to just conceptually help us wrap our minds around what is the whole notion of a backpack and why would it be necessary?
Yeah, so the way I like to think about the backpack is that it's the completely learner-centered view of education and credentialing and everything like that. So it's called a backpack, because it's personal. It's something you carry with you lifelong. And so the idea of a backpack is that it's a tool that's learner-centered and helps to support lifelong learning. And at least in the beginning of open badges, when Mozilla first introduced this idea, their view of what it was going to be like is a bit more like how mail servers are right now, or mail programs. Like you have a standard so that there'll be lots of different types of backpacks. Like there might be one kind that you use when you're in K-12, there might be you switch over to a different kind of backpack for your professional life. Just like the way you use like you use Outlook at work, but Gmail at home, that different, or if you're an educator, maybe Gmail everywhere. But, so I use Gmail everywhere too. But yeah, so the idea is there would be lots of backpacks out there, and just everything's new and everybody's developing as much as they can. And so until now, there's really only been one open backpack. There are other backpacks. So like the Open Badge Factory has a really nice backpack. Badger has a really nice backpack too. So it seems like things are starting to grow, where we're going to have a richer environment and people will have more choices.
Yeah, and so I love how that sort of learner focus lens you bring to it, because I think that's something that can get lost a lot of times in these discussions. And also, I heard you talking a lot about interoperability, and so, and for folks who are just sort of entering the space and trying to wrap their heads around, would it be fair to take what you were saying and kind of say that part of it has to do with we might be earning digital badge credentials from disparate issuers? And almost like I might be carrying dollars, pesos, and shekels, and that I need one wallet, right? I need one place where I can have all of these different badges from disparate issuers that I can share in one place. Is that a fair analogy?
That's one piece of it. That it's I think the bank account analogy is a really good one. The other piece of it is that you should be able to choose where you want to keep them. Because it might be, for example, that one backpack has really good sharing that's appropriate for applying for jobs. And so like you move badges, some of your badges over to that backpack for a while you're doing that. That over time, just like different mailers have different benefits, and sometimes you move your money around from account to account. You might also want to be able to move your badges, and you don't want to be locked into any one.
Oh, that's really awesome. You're really blowing my mind with that. And before I ask another follow-up question, for folks who are just joining us live, you can tweet in questions to Karen Jeffrey using hashtag #BadgeChat, and we'll get those asked live on the air. And Karen, for folks who are, including myself, with the Open Badge Standard, do I hear you saying that a badge can live in more than one backpack at the same time?
For sure, it can live in more than one backpack, because the thing that's the validation for the backpack is the hosted assertion. It's actually the badge issuer who is hosting the badge and who validates it as being authentic, and that your badge backpack is holding a reference to that. And so like that reference could be in a lot of places.
Awesome. And so if we were going to give advice to users, badge earners, when they're thinking about locating a badge backpack, displaying their badges, that maybe the kind of first place is not which is the best backpack, but what are my goals here and which backpack is going to help meet those goals the best?
And I think for the most part at the moment, the truth is it has a lot to do with your badge issuer too. That it is convenient to have, because these are the early days, that if all your badges, if you're at one institution and all your badges are being issued by one vendor, then it's probably going to be convenient to stick with their backpack. But I think that'll change over time.
Absolutely. Especially, I picture young people, they're going on field trips and earning badges from different community and cultural organizations, not just their school, and that we could start, in very short order to see badge earners who are earning badges that were issued on, multiple different platforms.
Yeah. And you want to be careful not to lose your badges, because the main value of the backpack is, why you have a backpack in general, so you can find your stuff. And so just having one place to keep your stuff has a lot of value too.
Totally. And it looks like Kim over at Team Badger is watching us live. Karen, thanks you for the shout out and wants us to know that they've got lots of features there, integrating, including accepting open badges from all platforms.
Awesome.
Karen, for folks who do that research and they encounter the Mozilla branded backpack, can you just kind of help lay out for folks just what Mozilla was doing and why there's, that as folks think of the Mozilla backpack, it might be helpful for them if they're really serious about this to kind of start to forget the Mozilla piece of that and dive into what you were just talking about, figuring out which backpack is right to meet their needs?
Yeah, so the Mozilla Backpack, at least the way I was told by the community and by the folks who were working for Mozilla, is that the intention was that to build a prototype, like an example of what a backpack should do and how it should work, and that they were looking for other software developers to step up and develop their own version of what a backpack should provide. So we do support a lot of K-12 and a lot of informal learning education, adult learning, so we're focusing on a particular niche of badge earners. And, so our badge backpack is geared towards that. And there's other badge packs that are geared towards other classes of users in general. And I think as these badges emerge, that's more of what the vision that Mozilla had.
So do I understand that Mozilla saw that there were just some really forward-thinking people who saw there will be a need for something like this, and so we will build one example of what that could look like, just so that there's something people can turn and point to, and not just have it live in white paper land, but actually have something in execution land, and that they're no longer supporting that because the ecosystem's now there for folks like For All Systems and Badger to build backpacks that will continue to evolve and meet users' needs.
Yeah, so they still, I think, provide, I'm not sure, but I think they're providing some financial support for it, for the maintenance. And, it's still a backpack that's available for people to use. I don't want to diss it, but there's other ones around too. I guess I should have mentioned Credly too, because Credly has a really good backpack also.
Awesome, good to hear that. The folks who are issuing or not building closed ecosystems for open badges, because that would seem to go against the whole ethos of everything we're doing, right?
Definitely.
So Karen, I think now might be a really good time, now that we've had a chance to just learn a little bit about this, to actually dive into the deeper dive of the show and tell with the For All Systems version of the backpack. I know you're have something ready to screen share with us and
yep.
kind of give us a little bit of a walkthrough of how it might look. And one thing that I know when you and I had spoken about this previously that I was really keen to hear you dive a little deeper into is this sort of lens of badges as e-portfolio, badges being a part of e-portfolios, and that sort of storytelling mechanism being something that you really view as central to the backpack that you're building for all systems.
Yep. So, okay. Can you see me logged into the backpack here?
We can.
Oh, hooray. So, here's the main view on the For All Systems backpack. And if you want to get to the backpack, you can just go to forallbackpacks.com. It's free, it's open source, you can sign up. It works on phones and desktops and tablets and has on and offline mode too. So you can use it out in the field. And like I said, we support a lot of learning organizations and focus on the process of learning a lot and for creating communities of learners. And so our focus is a bit more on the things that happen during that process. Want me to start with the e-portfolio, or?
Before you do that, just as folks are looking at this, they may be noticing that some of these are showing how many times it's been viewed.
Yeah, so one of the things that we have different components to our platform, and this is the learner-centered component. So in here, learners can share on all different social media with HTML embed, with URLs, and then we collect analytics for the learner so that they can see how the data that they've shared out is being viewed. So if they're applying for a summer internship, they can see who's actually clicked on it, and which sites that they're sharing on are most effective. And the other thing that's kind of related here is that once they do share, let's say that they don't want to share it anymore. They're because we were considering this as lifelong learning. So just because you shared something when you were 14 doesn't mean you want it to be on the internet for the rest of your life. So each time we share, we create a unique URL, and then anytime you want, you can delete the share and then create a fresh one whenever you want to too.
Interesting. And with the link pieces, do I have the ability to share with only a specific individual?
Yeah, because when you create the link, it'll generate a URL, and then you can email it to them or do whatever you want. So if you put it on a website, it's going to be shared with the world. If you send it, like last week, someone asked me, it's from an informal learning program, and they wanted to be able to cross over between the students, be able to learning to cross over between formal and informal learning. And they said, well, if they wanted to share with their high school, with their science teacher, how could they do it? So I said, well, they can just create the link and then share it with their teacher.
Awesome. And then they would, if they click on the link a second time, that's going to disable the link, and then they can recreate a new link by clicking on it a third time.
Exactly. So
Awesome.
like if they wanted to show a project that they did to their teacher, they can share it, the teacher can look at it, and then when they're done, they might want to just delete the link. They don't have to share it forever.
And two other things I'm curious about. I see that there's the 3 menu dots on the right-hand side of each badge. What additional options do we have there, as well as the filters that we can add there?
Some of it's just like removing the badge from your backpack if you don't want it there anymore. Viewing the badge, you could also just click on it. The one that I think is really useful too is exporting baked badges. So for folks who aren't familiar with baked badges, it's one of the really innovative pieces that was put into the Open Badge standard, where how like when you take a photo with your smartphone or even just with a regular digital camera, when you upload it to a photo site, all of a sudden you see like what f-stop you took, what city you took it in, like what were the GPS coordinates, the date and time, like all this metadata is collected about your photo. So what the Open Badge standard does is in the image for the badge, they use that same technical capability to store the learning metadata. So all the learning data that's part of the Open Badge that you see when you click on a badge can be stored as part of the image. And that's what happens when you export a baked badge. And so when you normally when you export a baked badge, you'd send it to Dropbox or Google Drive or to your local computer. The same way you'd want to archive your photos, you want to archive your learning achievements. And I think we're one of the few people who actually support attachments at the current time in the baked badges too. So part of the Open Badge standard is that you can attach evidence of learning. You can capture authentic evidence as like a report, the actual work artifact that a student created, or a video of a performance that they did in order to demonstrate the skill. And you can attach it to the badge. And then especially for the learning artifacts, it's especially nice to be able to back them up and download and archive them.
Awesome. And we do have a question from one of our live viewers asking if you can share a view of the entire backpack, or if you can actually do a selection of specific badges at any given time.
Yeah, for sure. So that's part of what the ePortfolio is for. So the idea of the ePortfolio, just because we're working with a lot of schools, they want to be able to have students, especially for like competency-based programs and things like that, to have them have a more holistic view of the work they're doing. So when you create an ePortfolio entry, you can put a title, put whatever text you want, and then you could attach badges or upload files. And if it happens that you're on a phone or a tablet with a camera, when you say upload file, it actually will let you take a photo or a video as well. So, like, especially if you're in a science class or something where you're doing work in the field, it's really nice to be able to capture learning artifacts. Like, you know, if you're trying to identify certain kinds of frogs or something like that, then you can take pictures of the ones you find. Maybe birds are a better choice. But yeah, so you can group them and explain how they fit together and what happened with them. And then all the capabilities that we have for badges, we also have for ePortfolio. So like you can filter them to find the ones you want. You can edit them, copy them, remove them. You can also do all the same sharing as well.
So I guess that's kind of an interesting thought as far as, you know, curating your backpack in the portfolio sort of mode enables you to not just share badges, but also, as you said, add context to how you're sharing badges with whoever the audience is. So if I'm applying, like you said, for an internship or wanting to share this with colleges, that a given e-portfolio might be a way to customize for a specific employer or college what that looks like.
Exactly. And you can make copies of your ePortfolio entries too, so that you share a different version. Like you could have a base version and then customize it for each of the places you're sending it to, or so that you can keep track of the views separately. So you can see which organizations have actually viewed it and which ones haven't. In terms of the ePortfolio, I can't help but think that like the most important reader of the ePortfolio is actually going to be the learner themselves. Because, you know, like, I don't know, I have this one report that I did on Native Americans when I was in 4th grade that I still have. And when I open it up and look at it, it just brings back so many memories and reminds me of like the things I've been interested in, and like having an ePortfolio where you could look back and see photos or videos of things you did, so that when you're making plans for your future, you can look back at and remember who you are, seems really useful too.
You know, I really love how you put that, and I love your, you know, real just user-centered focus and learner-centered focus to how you all are designing these. We have another question that's asking about, speaking of sharing badges, you know, what have you seen from the different platforms as far as efficacy goes with sharing badges?
You mean, what do you mean by efficacy in terms of the effectiveness of people actually clicking on them or things like that?
That's a good question. You know, I would probably take this question and be evaluating on what you've seen from the different platforms themselves.
Oh, in terms of the capabilities in terms of sharing?
Yeah, and the effectiveness of those capabilities.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much the same on most of the platforms. That, like sharing on the different social media platforms, it's just an API you call. And then lots of folks create URLs and HTML embed codes. I think we might be the only platform that creates analytics for the learner. I know other platforms create analytics for the issuer. I don't know, it might be other ones do too. And I think we're the only ones that let you delete and recreate links, but I might be wrong.
And, you know, what if about somebody who's watching this from a, you know, decision-making capacity within a learning community, thinking about what functional requirements they might need specific, or their learners might need specifically within the realm of sharing and displaying digital badges to badge consumers. Any kind of thoughts that you would suggest for those decision makers when they're thinking about what their functional requirements ought to be in order to meet the needs of their learners?
I think like the features that we have in terms of sharing are pretty standard, especially on the badge side of things. I know the Open Badge Factory also has an ePortfolio capability. So part of it would be, do you want to share just badges or also like a e-portfolio type entry? And then I think it's pretty standard to support the whole, to support the different social media platforms. And it's really nice to have HTML embed codes so that you can put it on websites or other things like that. And of course the URL.
Right. And, and I really think that your point about how you can customize different e-portfolios within the backpack in order to share them to specific audiences really resonates. I just heard a podcast with a recruiter for a tech company saying, it just really gets under their skin when people clearly are not writing, a new cover letter when they're applying for a job. It's clearly just copy and pasted from every other job they're applying for. That doesn't show them, hey, I'm actually interested in your company. And this sort of hints at a new way, sort of a new literacy, if you will, for for people applying for jobs to be able to communicate to employers, hey, I'm really customizing this for you.
Yeah.
Do you kind of view it in that light?
100%. Where a lot of people who talk about badges, sometimes there's a big, like people talk a lot about competencies and, about reaching certain standards or having certain skills. But like as an employer, and when you talk to employers in general, you don't want just somebody who has the generic skill. You want them to have the skills they're going to need for the job they're going to do at your workplace. And so, or even just for graduate school and things like that, every school has its own focus. And so being able to attach evidence of learning and to be able to show, like if you're applying for a programming job, being able to show like actual code you wrote, or to include a performance, or to include a paper you wrote. I think also like being able to be examined and to have some accreditation is really good, but it'll be really helpful for getting a job if you can show that you understand something about the work that they're going to want you to do.
Totally. Yeah. I love the way you put that. And Karen, if you want to unshare your screen as we kind of wrap up here so people can see you again. And if you click the stop screen sharing button there, there you go. You did it perfectly. Thank you so much. And Karen, I know that you'll be joining us here next month in Chicago at the 2018 Badge Summit. And are there any specific things you want to kind of get on people's radar as far as sessions that they'll be able to see there and just get people jazzed and excited?
Yeah, there's a ton of great sessions that are going to be there. The Badge Summit's always one of my favorite events of the year, so I'm really looking forward to it.
I didn't pay her to say that, everybody.
I did it. Yeah, I came up with it. And I guess one that I'm particularly excited about personally is Providence After School Alliance is coming in, and they do really innovative work, both on, they're like collaborating on competency-based learning at a couple of high schools in Providence. And they're also bringing in community partners, the Providence Public Library and Fab Newport, and also Youth Voices and maybe a couple of more. And so I think that's going to be super exciting. If anybody is interested in connecting with me, and we're actually based here in Chicago, so if anybody's going to be in town and you're looking to kill time before or after, feel free to get in touch.
Awesome. Yeah. And for anybody who does want to check it out, it's bit.ly/badge summit. It's coming up June 23rd. And Karen will be there. Kim, who I saw was watching with Badger. I don't know if you're going to be there, but I know some of your colleagues will be. And Karen, I just thank you so much for taking the time to really help us wrap our heads around something that's just so conceptually abstract with this backpack. And I think you really made it accessible to folks while also showing one of what I think is going to be one of the right answers out there for folks that are looking into this kind of badge backpack solution.
Can I just say one more feature I realized we didn't hit on?
Yes.
So one of the cool things about our backpack is that it works offline too, so you don't have to have internet access for it. I don't know if I said that or not.
You did not, but I think that's something that's really important, especially as schools are going one-to-one with Chromebooks, and students are taking them home. But we know that not every student has the exact same opportunity to be online at the same time. So that's definitely a cool feature. Well, thanks so much to the folks who are watching live, who asked us questions live on Twitter, and for anybody who finds this afterwards on YouTube and watches asynchronously. Hope you enjoyed this. You can connect with Karen on Twitter at Karen Jeffrey. I'm at Senor G on the Twitter. And I really appreciate you for taking your time and sharing with us this afternoon, Karen. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
All right. See you later. Bye, everybody.